What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another video. Thank you for clicking on it. Now, today we're going to be doing another sort of top 5 thing. I'm not very imaginative, I do apologise, but I wanted to do something a little bit different that you might not have seen. So this is going to cover 5 games that I love because of how competitive they were. These 5 games really brought out my inner sweat and made me try my absolute hardest in almost every game. Now these 5 games, some of them are going to be classics, a couple of them you might not have played, and one of them I've mentioned quite a lot. So without further ado, we're going to jump into 5 of the sweatiest games that I have ever played. First up at number 5 is, we're going to try and do this list in sort of a date order, so like, this is going to be the game that I encountered at my youngest age on this list. So this is going to be Halo 3. Now, for anyone who knows me, they know how much I love the Halo series. I've mentioned it quite a lot in my videos. If you owned an Xbox 360, there's like a 99.9... No, I take that back. If you owned a 360, you played Halo 3. It's just one of those games that everyone who had a 360 tried at some point, whether they liked it or not. And the competitive esports scene that Halo 3 bred is just a testament to how well made the game was. Now, you could argue that Halo 2 kind of birthed the success of Halo 3 on this sort of competitive stage, but Halo 2 was so glitchy, so broken, and there were so many exploits that you just couldn't play it competitively, not really. Halo 3, on the other hand, is one of the best built multiplayer games that I've ever played. Now, for those of you that maybe don't take that much interest in how games are made, making a multiplayer game as balanced as Halo 3 was is extremely difficult. Even some of the most popular shooters on the planet, whether it's CSGO, whether it's Overwatch, whether it's Battlefield 1, there are always certain aspects that are more powerful than others. There are certain strategies and tactics, weapons, vehicles that just will help you win. Halo 3, it didn't have that. For everything that was strong, there was an equally strong counter. It's one of the few games I've played where you spawn on the battlefield at a completely level playing field in terms of your abilities, where you stand. Now, personal skill is a different thing entirely, and that's where Halo 3 ranking system came in. Halo 3's ranking system is one of the best I've had because it really did try its damnedest to make the games level. If you were level 42 in the MLG playlist, chances are you were going to come up against a load of 42s in the MLG playlist. Halo 3 just did its damnedest to make every game as fun as possible. Now this video is about the games that really bred and encouraged my competitive side when it comes to gaming, and Halo 3 is the first game that really pushed that out of me. Really made me want to learn how to get good. It was the first game that I can remember watching videos of pros playing it and seeing how they did it and try and emulate things that they did. And Halo 3, for that reason, stands in my mind as one of the strongest games in FPS history. Not only was it incredibly balanced, not only does it have an amazing universe, and not only did it look really good for the time, but it also played really nicely. The game's physics, the game's weapons, I think people just gravitated to it because of how well it was made. And it's a testament to Bungie's game creation pedigree, as it were, that how good Halo 3 actually was. Up at number 4 is the next game that I probably played in this timeline, and that is Call of Duty 4, also on the Xbox 360. Now, Call of Duty 4 was probably the opposite of everything that Halo 3 stood for. It wasn't particularly balanced, the maps weren't particularly balanced, the story was okay, it wasn't great, you know, it's just what it is. Call of Duty games have always been like that though, to be fair. But the one place where they matched up was the terrific gameplay. Call of Duty 4 has some of the most addictive gameplay you might ever see. Halo 3 was addictive because of the games that you played out. It would never play out exactly the same, and that feeling of winning was amazing. In Call of Duty 4, that feeling of getting shot in the back and then 180ing and shooting them in the face is something that has survived the generations. Call of Duty 4 is still now an extremely fun game to play, as testament to the enormous success of the remaster compared to the game that it launched with. People still love Call of Duty 4. There was a plethora of weapons, plethora of attachments, so there was kill streaks. There was, by the end of the game's lifespan, there was like 20 maps or something stupid. And the actual mentality of Call of Duty 4 is carried over to a lot of other games since, and is solely to blame for the success of the series overall. If you ask most people what their favourite Call of Duty game was, they're gonna say Call of Duty 4, and that's what keeps people buying Call of Duty games, is in the hope that the game is going to be as good as Call of Duty 4 was back then. Now, in my personal opinion, I actually preferred Modern Warfare 2, but in terms of multiplayer competitiveness and actually caring about winning and losing, Call of Duty 4 was right up there. It was right up there. It was a Twitch shooter. It was something I hadn't played since the likes of Doom and Quake. It wasn't like an arena shooter like those two, but it required the same sort of reflexes, running around, making sure you checked your corners. There was all sorts of things that you might pull from the real world military and the way they work into a game world. All sorts of survivability was so low. Call of Duty 4, 2 or 3 bullets and you were on the ground. So it's like, it's sort of bred that inner reflex that I have now when I play a shooting game. That instant twitch, shit, he's over there, better shoot him, type of thing. And that is something that I will always thank Call of Duty for. Thank? I'm not saying it's so common. That is something that I will always thank Call of Duty 4 for, because it really did increase my gaming reflexes and made me naturally good at shooters. I was great at Halo 3, I was great at Gears of War back in the day. Call of Duty 4 really improved my sense of game, my game sense in general, to be honest. Next up at number 3 is, like I said, the next game in this timeline, and it is Gears of War 3. Now, coming out towards the end of the 360's lifespan, Gears of War 3 is a game that a lot of you might have played, but a lot of you wouldn't have committed any time to. It's a game that you might play the campaign, you might play the multiplayer for a bit and then drop it. And for that reason, Gears of War 3 had probably one of the smallest gaming communities that I have ever participated in. But for that reason, it was such a close-knit and competitive scene that it was just a bit unreal, to be honest. I haven't played a game as sweaty as Gears of War 3 ever. It is the sweatiest game I have ever played in my life. It's one of those games where you don't have a rank, not where you do have a rank, but it's not something that's on the line by winning or losing. So the only thing that you stand to gain from winning and losing is boosting your stats. And Gears of War 3 made your stats so accessible that you almost dedicated yourself to bettering them. Your KD, your win-loss, the amount of chainsaw kills you had, the amount of shotgun kills you had, etc, etc, etc. And not only that, it was boosted by just a general sense of camaraderie through the actual community in general. It was such a small community that you could play with the same guys every day by complete fluke. You will come up against and play with these same players and get to learn who's good, who's maybe not as good, how they will play and how this group will play. And that just bred this, it was almost like a permanent competition between teams. Because if you're 4-stacking and you come up against this 4-stack 4 games in a row, it suddenly becomes like, right, we lost the last one against these guys, let's play better this time round. And it is partly due to how small the crowd was for Gears of War 3 that I loved it so much. I didn't play it as much as some of my friends. I had a lot of friends at the time that played the shit out of Gears of War 3. I'm talking like 1,000 hours, you know, still playing it when the Xbox One came out. I didn't do that, I wasn't that dedicated to it, but Gears of War 3 for me is one of my favourite shooters of all time because it went a different direction to other shooters. It stood by its third-person roots. It stood by its long kill times, introducing uberly overpowered weapons, but making you start with the same loadout, much in the same vein to the Halo games and what made them so balanced at the start. Gears of War 3, it wasn't particularly balanced, to be honest. The skill ceiling was so high, and the matchmaking was so bad at times that you could have someone that basically knew the basics against someone that had played 2,000 hours and you wouldn't even be able to touch them. It had its problems, Gears of War 3, but due to the way it was built, the way it was designed, and funnily enough how unpopular it was, Gears of War 3 is one of the most fun multiplayer experiences in a shooting game that I've ever had, and really brought out my inner sweat for everyone to see. Next up at number 2 is a game not quite like the others on this list. It is Battlefield 4. Now, Battlefield have had a very good pedigree of multiplayer games. Bad Company 1 and 2 were awesome. Bad Company 2 is my first love of the series. I didn't like Battlefield 3 as much, it has to be said, but Battlefield 4 was incredible and is one of 5, maybe 6 games that I've hit the 1,000 hour mark on. I played it every day. Literally every day. I got to one level off the max, which was 139. I got all the attachments for basically all of the weapons that you might care about. I unlocked basically everything, to be honest with you, and I put a significant amount of time into bettering myself at the game. Now, it did help with Battlefield 4 that I had a massive crowd to play with. I had maybe 15 or 16 online friends that played Battlefield 4 and I could just invite to a game whenever I wanted. But I had a steady sort of squad of 5 or 6 players that really did help my experience of the game overall. There was nothing better than jumping into an online game of Rush on Battlefield 4 on Zavod, for instance, or any other map that you might care to mention. Now, Battlefield 4 was sweaty, but it was sweaty for different reasons. It was sweaty because, quite frankly, when Battlefield 4 launched, it was a mess. It was an absolute state. You had the people that could commit far more time than others, unlocking all of the stuff for like vehicles and weapons, coming up against people that had only just got the game, which made it extremely unbalanced and meant that you had to put in the most work possible in order to be good at the game. Okay, by the time that I was playing Battlefield 4, people had unlocked everything for like attack choppers, tanks, which meant if they saw you, you were probably going to die until you put some significant time into the game. Now, a lot of people will play Battlefield 4 and go, it's all about tanks, it's all about helicopters, you know, like when they've got a vehicle that you can't be beaten. That's not true. You just have to learn to change the way you approach a video game. Battlefield's not like Call of Duty, it's not like Halo, it's not like Gears of War. You can't run into an open conflict and expect to win. You have to think about your approach. You have to think about possible flank routes, taking out the people with long-range weapons before you worry about the guy with a shotgun. Making sure you clear a room entirely before defusing or planting a bomb. You have to make sure that if you get the opportunity to try and steal your enemy's vehicles so they can't use them, and use them against them for the rest of the round. And it was this approach to tactics and team strategy that really made the Battlefield games, but especially Battlefield 4, so goddamn addictive. Bring into that the terrific physics, the amazing map design, and the truly in-depth vehicle combat made Battlefield 4 probably one of the most well-rounded shooters I've ever played. There is no feeling like having a 1v1, a tank versus tank, and then having your teammate run up behind the tank, plant some C4 on its ass, and then blow it the fuck up. There's nothing quite like that. There's nothing like landing a cross-map RPG on a chopper because you thought that you could maybe make the shot. Okay, there's nothing like sniping the pilot of a chopper out of the air. All of these things make Battlefield, in general as a series, so much better than other games. But Battlefield 4 mastered everything and brought it into one massive package, along with a decent campaign, really good stat tracking, a decently addictive ranking system, and a great way of unlocking attachments. For this reason, Battlefield 4 will always stand as a damn classic in my mind. Next up at the top of this list is a game you're probably all going to see coming. It is the peak of multiplayer gaming at this point in time. Debatable to some, but it is Overwatch. I talk about Overwatch a lot, I play Overwatch a lot, but it is, for many reasons, the most fun that I've had in a shooter ever. It doesn't just stand as one of my favourite FPS games, it is my favourite FPS game ever. It tops Halo 3, it tops Halo 2, Battlefield 4, Gears of War 3 and Call of Duty 4. It is so addictive and so team-based with so many different ways of playing that there is just no limit to the amount of fun you can have. Just think about it for a second. It didn't launch with a single player, it didn't launch with any kind of horde mode or anything like that. It didn't launch with many modes, and it cost 45 quid when I bought it, for what it is. And a lot of people might say that package is not worth it. But I can tell you right now, Blizzard have built one of the most solid games that I've ever played. The amount of glitches is low, honestly, and when there is a glitch, they fix it inside days, if not hours. And they try their best to promote fair gameplay across the board. There's like, essentially, Overwatch, if you haven't played it, it combines essences of MOBAs, arena shooters like Quake, and more strategic shooters like Halo, all into one kind of great, well-rounded package. You've got the characters and their abilities all binded to different buttons. You've got the different classes like support, tank, offense, defense, etc, etc. Then you've got the close-knit maps, but the sort of modes that you don't see in most shooters, the last one being Team Fortress 2, probably off the top of my head. And it kind of brings that all together into this wonderful 6v6 experience that is just so addictive. So for me, I am currently sitting on, I'm well over 1,000 hours at this point on Overwatch. I've played it pretty much daily since it's come out. That's how much I love it. And I can probably say that I am very, very good with about a quarter of the hero roster. A quarter. After 1,000 hours, I am confident playing 6 or 7 heroes consistently. out of the, I don't know, 25 I think there is now. That's ridiculous. When you think of the time investment I've got into the game to only be massively confident with 6 or 7 characters, which is more than you might see on a lot of people. I have a lot of friends that can maybe at a top level play 3 or 4 characters, maybe even just 1 or 2. So the fact that I'm on 6 or 7 is like, I'm relatively flexible, but I'm still missing out on 3/4 of the roster at that sort of level. Now I play them, I might play them well, but it doesn't mean I'm really helping the team if I pick them. And it's that sort of focus onto really learning a character, their abilities, what they're capable of, what they should be doing and shouldn't be doing, how to best approach a fight, that makes Overwatch so good. If it wasn't for that fact, Overwatch wouldn't be anywhere near as good as it is. But it's also aided by a top community, terrific esports support, and just an amazing approach to game support. Now, the game does have microtransactions in loot boxes, but I've never paid, well, that's a lie actually, I have a couple of times, but most of the time I don't pay for microtransactions in games. In Overwatch I've only bought loot boxes a couple of times towards the end of an event, if I really want a skin and I can't afford to get it with the in-game currency. But Blizzard have this amazing thing of just launching new updates, new characters, buffs, nerfs, just fixing stuff, changing stuff as they see fit to really keep the game as strong as possible. That and many other things make Overwatch an amazing experience. I've got a guy next door knocking on my... Can you hear that? Yep. Wait, I think he stopped. He has stopped. Yes, there we go. No more hammers for us. So I'm going to have to end the video now, guys, because I've been talking on for quite a while. But hopefully, if you did enjoy, like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. If you didn't enjoy, feel free to dislike and let me know in the comments below. And I will see you guys next time. My name's been Zach. You've been awesome, and peace.
Press rewind, talking bands, I got it. Benjamins in my pocket. I traded my truth for some robins, and he's playing Batman. Fatty's gonna rob him. Yeah. I got the Glock in my robbery. 17 shots, no 38. Yeah, I got the Glock in my robbery. 17 shots, no 38. Yeah,